This Saturday sees the return of John McGlynn to Starks Park, and he couldn't have picked a better position to be in. With 5 wins from 5 so far in the Championship, his Falkirk side are 11 points clear of Raith Rovers, despite having played a game less. Neil Collins saw his side turn in their best performance of the season last weekend against Hamilton, but a familiar soft underbelly was exposed again, and 2 points were dropped with the last kick of the ball. Now, the Rovers will need to match those performance levels with a good bit of steel if they're to be the side to end McGlynn's 43-game unbeaten league run. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and joining me for tonight's preview, we have Blair Hopcroft, first of all. How are you, Blair?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, I'm looking forward to dissecting the McGlynn of it all.
Yes, definitely. We've also got Allan Douglas Munn. How are you, Allan?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Looking forward to the game on Saturday and looking to have a good chat about how we all think it's going to go.
Perfect. And rounding off tonight, we're running a skeleton staff. It's Robbie Weir. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, I'm really good, but I'm just wondering, if we lose another 90th minute goal, does Allan hit that big red button that's in the background from the looks of things just over his left shoulder?
All that does is turn off the shower and the ensuite, so it's not too bad.
I thought you were going to say if we lose another 90-minute goal, are we going to have to face the fact that Allan might be a jinx and we're just going to have to just remove him from the roster?
I've already told Callum that I'm going to make sure that he never enters Starks Park again if he doesn't turn up to a game and we win. So, no pressure, Callum.
Yeah, so let's... I'll tell you what, we'll get to the game in a minute or two. We'll spend a good bit of time on that. But before we do, a couple of other things kind of came up during the week for us to discuss. Blair, do you want to start with the good news or the bad news?
Either, mate. I'm a good news kind of guy, so I can turn bad news into good news somehow.
Okay, fair enough. Right, we'll give you that challenge then. So we don't have a kind of confirmed prognosis on this yet, but it sounds like Lewis Vaughan's hamstring injury that saw him go off on Saturday is at the serious end of hamstring injuries. If the kind of rumour mill and the Courier are to be believed.
Yeah.
Pretty big problem, I would suggest. Do you think that is a problem that can be resolved with the existing playing staff, or does that immediately send you looking into the transfer market?
I think it does send you into the transfer market. I think you have to. What Vaughan gives you, I don't think there's anybody else in the squad that does. My worry is, though, I don't see us also picking up anybody who does that unless Neil Collins' little black book has a page that no one else knows about. Because I just feel like Vaughan's one of those players that, I mean, let's be perfectly honest. If Vaughan wasn't as good as he was, we'd have cut our losses years ago. I mean, as much as he's the one club man and we love him to bits and all the rest of it, let's not shirk away from the fact he's also a really, really talented footballer and he's really, really good. We talk a lot about, if he wasn't injured, he wouldn't play for us. He would have absolutely made a bigger career for himself if it wasn't for the injuries. And I suppose the only good news, if there is any, is that it appears not to be an ACL again, because I think that would have been really bad news. So yeah, wish him all the best. Do you know what I mean? It sounds horrible, but I don't think there's anybody better prepared to deal with this. Like, he has been through it. He knows that he can get through it and he can get back. He must be so frustrated though. Like, the guy just can't catch a break. So yeah, wish him all the best. I do think that in the short term, if the rumour mill is anything to go by, we'll be lucky to see him again this season, potentially. I'm not really sure kind of how much to read into that, but it's going to be certainly tail end of the season if we do see him. And then he's obviously got to get himself back up to proper fitness and back in firing again. So yeah, I think Neil Collins will be hopefully ringing a few agents and seeing if he can rustle up a few jimmies. To Warren Robbie's phrase. Yeah, it's a bummer, but you've got to kind of, we've been here before, eh? Do you know what I mean? We're, as much as he's prepared to deal with it, like we have been here before, and we've got to just keep going.
Yeah. So I think hopefully we should get more news on this tomorrow. So we're recording Thursday night, as we always do. It's my understanding that Neil Collins has kind of rejigged the training week for the team, and one of the results of that is they get Thursdays off now, which is why the manager's interview is now on a Friday. Very little regard paid to podcasters in that decision. Very selfish, as far as I'm concerned. So we don't have kind of an update on that, or indeed much else. But yeah, the Courier had it this week that he's going for a scan, and he's kind of already booked in to see a specialist as well. That would lean towards being a fairly pessimistic kind of outlook. So all will become clear. I'm sure we will get updates and kind of find out. But yeah, I mean, the thing for me is it's not a sort of like emotional, sentimental laden, like, oh, it's another injury for Lewis Vaughan, who's had a lot of injuries. It's like, he's our best player. Or certainly at the very top end. And as you said, there's nobody else who's doing that. I think you could make the argument, I think I would make this argument, he might be the only sort of natural goal scorer in the entire squad. And if you kind of, so obviously quite a nebulous term, but the other guys that we've got who score goals, it's kind of a result of hard work, which is not a bad thing by any means at all. But Vaughan's the one who scored goals out of nothing. And I think you only need to look at his goal tally for last season. That's really, really difficult to replace. And that's where... Yeah.
See if a good example of that is probably the goal that he scored the last time that we won up at Inverness, where it was really a goal that came out of just his sheer technical ability. You've probably got a good number of examples about that across last season, so to lose that's huge. So yeah,
that's the one I was thinking of, was the one at Somerset, the second away game, where Zach Rudden kind of knocks the ball over for him, and it's just like his first touch is incredible, and his finish is incredible, and it's that sort of, he's not even really had time to think about it, it's just on instinct, but matched with technical ability, and I just don't think you get an awful lot of that at this level, to be perfectly honest, across all the teams. So he's going to give me a huge miss. Allan, is a any way you think that you can try and sort of patch that gap with the players that we've already got?
I mean, you can fill the position he plays in terms of, that number 10 role. Dylan Easton did perfectly fine there last week. But it's his goal scoring, and he's got as good a first touch as I've seen at this level. He can take a defender out with just his first touch. He's got that, as you say, the technical ability. And he was actually, that's one of the most frustrating things. He was having a pretty good game last week until he got injured. He was looking sharp. You're thinking to yourself, God, we've got him back. This is going to make such a difference to our team. And, guys like Smith and Jameson came on, and they're full of running. They do their thing, but no, we don't have that natural finisher in the squad. And there's nobody obvious out there. Our options are really loan from the Premiership or an unattached player. I don't know how many of them are going around.
Yes, I don't think you're not going to get a lone player who's going to do that. No, I don't think. Like the only.
Because there's not a team in Scotland that has a player like that and doesn't need a player like that. Like,
exactly.
There's no team going, like, I remember getting Ryan Hardy for Rangers and being like, the only reason he wasn't good enough to play for Rangers, but he was a natural goal scorer, came in and sort of buried chances left, right and centre. You just don't have that anymore.
No. What you're kind of left relying on that side is guys like Stevie May, who's obviously gone to Livingston, and you're kind of hoping that they have this sort of renaissance kind of out of nowhere. But it's it's so much more difficult in the position that we're in than even to go back to the last time we played Falkirk with Steve McLean came in, but he was dropping 2 levels. You're now talking about, like, I mean, Stevie May, St Johnstone finished 3 places above us in the pyramid last year. Like, that's not a big drop. You're not giving him an awful lot of kind of leeway to really, like, a team 3 places above you is like, this guy's so beyond what we need, we're getting rid of him. And like, for us, we're like, we need this guy to basically be incredible, effectively, in like a goal scoring sense. So yeah, so you're looking at, you know, a kind of an experienced striker like that who's been booted out of somewhere. I can't think of any off the top of my head who are in that position. Or, as you say, like a Ryan Hardy type. But again, like, these guys aren't available. Like, Lewis Jameson is basically that profile of player. But if Lewis Jameson was the kind of guy who was going to score 20 goals a season or 15 goals a season,
you get a game
like,
for St. Mirren.
Get a game for St Mirren. And St Mirren are a good side, but that's still, like, the gap is not big enough to have that sort of differential.
I think realistically it has to be the Old Firm. That's probably the only 2 teams in the country that potentially could have a guy that's capable of scoring 15, 20 goals in the Championship and still wouldn't get a game necessarily for them in the way that they play. And to be fair, maybe only even Celtic, like, to have that kind of luxury.
Yeah,
maybe Aberdeen need to send Duke somewhere to get a bit of match fitness for a while.
But that,
so
I think
another
what
thing,
you're
actually,
left
you
with,
could get a player for match fitness, but
potentially you're getting towards the point now where you could get someone until the 1st of January. But yeah, I think what you're left with is hoping that Neil Collins has a contact book that features people that you've effectively never heard of before. You know, in the bubble of being a Scottish lower league football fan, you're looking for someone to come from the outside who is, you know, no experience of this level, hasn't picked up a club since the summer, and then comes in to do a job. And speaking of which, the good news from this week, we had a new arrival who, it seems, came out of Neil Collins' contact book and who none of us had ever heard of before. But I think we're all pretty excited about this one.
yeah.
And I have to tell you, I have not seen a single clip, highlight, GIF of Fankaty Dabo kicking a ball. I'm almost not interested. It feels like I could only be disappointed. But I watched his interview and I'm entirely sold on this. Robbie, give me your thoughts on the arrival.
Well, can you remember 10 days ago when that evening when a certain Kanayo Megwa signed for Partick Thistle and everybody in their dug was chucking their toys out the pram saying, it's no good enough, we've no signed the right back, it's not happening, what is John Potter doing at the club? I thought we had budget to sign players. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, we've signed this player. I think Blair put it very nicely, like, we're a wee bit in danger of building Megwa up to be maybe a bit better than he actually was. But at the same time, yeah, what a signing. So much experience, both whether it's the youth levels in England, you look at the Championship down in England, League One, League Two. Again, just a very intriguing career path. Just some of the names that he's checked off. I listened to a podcast that he's with. He's one of his best pals, Royston Drenthe, who used to play for Real Madrid and Everton. Just a really surreal sort of journey that he's been on, and it's landed him in Kirkcaldy. He seems very enthusiastic. Obviously, the last few years haven't worked out probably in the way that he would have hoped, but at the same time, short-term contract, great opportunity for the guy to restart, move on. We've all seen sort of the interview and what happened in terms of Forest Green and the stuff with the penalty in Coventry. It's not really a bearing factor for me. I just think that we've made a really, really experienced signing that just came completely a bolt out of the blue. I'm absolutely delighted with it. And what a great guy he just sounds from his interviews. He's got all the potential to be a real cult hero there. So, yeah, I'm fully for it.
Yeah, Blair, are you on the Dabo train already?
Mate, I've seen a few people actually write it down, and I said the same thing. I smiled like a Cheshire cat the whole way through that interview. Honestly, like, I was cheesing the whole way through. He comes across as such a kind of genuine guy. And you could tell, and Davey kind of mentioned it as well, but you could tell that the script for the interview went out the window immediately because he was just dead relaxed and just chatting away. And you do sometimes get those interviews where it's like you're trying to get something out of them, and they've got their stock phrase. They just need to say, "I'm a winger and I like to run at the ball," and they tell you their thing. And he was just like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, really cool, calm and collected. I have seen a few highlights of him, and I'm excited, I have to say. He's kind of everything we were looking for. Kind of driving, powerful, but hopefully is going to actually bring a bit of happiness. But I'm with Robbie on this one. Like, this guy could, in 6 months' time, could be signing for somebody else and be one of the best players we've ever had, whether he's good or not.
Not
Just
that
because
you're
he's going
hyping
to
up
be
too
one of
much
these.
or anything.
But he's just going to be one of these characters, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's like, even John Fredrickson was crap, right? But the fans kind of loved him because he was a bit of a novelty factor and all the rest of it. And he kind of moved on. But I go back to, like, Gregory Taddy. When Taddy played for Wraith, he wasn't great. He was great, but he wasn't great. Like, he wasn't. Yeah. He was just such an infectious character that, yeah, sometimes it's about more than just technical ability. Sometimes there's that thing that they bring to a team, that swagger. We've talked pizzazz. Like, it's going to hopefully bring a bit of that back.
Yeah,
proper
I
excitement.
think the fear with some of these signings, where you're bringing guys from down south, especially the guys who've been through the sort of Premier League 2 infrastructure, is that they kind of underestimate the level and they turn up and they're a little bit like, I'm going to go to Scotland and just knock in 40 goals and then come back and play for someone else. Allan, there doesn't appear to be a sniff of that from our new man. He seems very kind of ready to push his sleeves up and get down to business, really.
Yeah, he's a guy whose career, I mean, he was, seconds away potentially from being a Premier League player. Unfortunately, it was his penalty that then made it went wrong. But that's the kind of level he has almost, he's been at. Things haven't gone well for him the last couple of years, and he seems to me a guy who's thinking, I've got maybe 4 or 5 years left of a short career. I need to work my ass off and get back to where I need to be. And he's putting himself in a shop window. He's, there'll be Scottish Premiership teams probably watching him from day one, thinking, Christ, this guy's only signed to January. We can maybe get this guy in the January window. Let's have a look at him. And I honestly, I think I put it in the group chat. I genuinely, like Blair, I've seen some clips of him, and it's just, he's going to get people standing up. And I think he's going to be a guy that in a few weeks' time, we're going to be like, what the hell's this guy doing playing at this level? We've had that in the past with players who are thinking, Christ, what the hell are they doing at this level? They're not a footballer in a million years. I think it's going to be for the good reason with this guy. I'm genuinely really excited. Feeling a little bit for Freeman, I have to say. He's finally got back in the team and had a really good game, and now this guy's come along. Although, saying that, is that part of the reason Freeman had such a good game? Because they would have obviously known he was coming in by that point. Judge him by the fact that Graham Kilgour kind of gave it away a little bit when he did Pollock's interview last week when he said one signing, so they obviously knew he was coming in. So maybe that bit of competition is going to be really good for Freeman as well.
I think the other thing as well is Fankaty Dabo does seem to be quite versatile as well. He's playing a couple of different positions. He looks like, I mean, I don't know to what extent it was one of the reasons why he didn't seem to get on so well, but I think he was playing left back a fair bit for Forest Green. He's certainly played sort of right up the right hand side. So while he's a right back to trade, I mean, he does look like he's got the ability to kind of pop up elsewhere, which is never a bad thing with the kind of squad size that we're working with.
See,
I do
old
think
Sacco
as well.
Valley says his dad's going to probably drive up for London, come to the game, and
Love
then
that.
just drive home. Like, then it
Love
makes
that.
my 1 hour commute each way seem a little bit pathetic now, doesn't it?
And
Yeah,
if
Carpool
he's
with the
listening,
pledge.
Mr. Dabo, you're welcome in the Macmillan Club, mate. Anytime. First pints on me.
Don't doubt it. But just to go back to what Allan said, though, I think that it's really important to remember that the guy's got a point to prove as well. Like, I think a lot of players that come up from down south, you hear sort of, I think it's spoken about even within the game, like a lot of players will come up from down south and they'll sort of view Scotland as being like a substandard pub league. This guy's got a point to prove, and it's a real opportunity as well, as mentioned, to like kick on and move up the levels if he's so inclined to do that. It was good to hear about him talking about the project and sort of what's out there. But when you were speaking before about sort of centre forwards having to replace Vaughan, it does make you wonder. Like, Neil Collins obviously got contacts out there. Like, there's nothing to say that we might not see another signing in a few weeks' time to potentially bring it in. So yeah, just I think in general it was much needed the last week in terms of the signings that we brought in. Just Pollock's really good, made a really impressive debut, and then on top of that to bring in Fankaty Dabo as well. Just really lifted the mood about the club. So yeah.
I was going to say on that as well, see the underestimating the level thing. I always think that's when they come from like that Premier League 2, that 23s league.
Yeah.
This guy's played Championship. Do you know what I mean? He's played at a really good level. So actually, this isn't the same level as he's played before. So even if he underestimates it slightly, we know he's capable of stepping up to a level that is definitely as good, if not better, than the level we're at.
I don't think he will, though. I just
got the track record that, it is that. It's exactly that. It's these guys that have only played under 23s football.
Totally.
Like, you don't know what that level's like.
Yeah,
because I suspect none of us have ever gone and watched Fulham under 23s play Ipswich under 23s. But 23-year-old. Like, because you see these guys, they come out of that at 22 and they go on loan somewhere. It's like, 22? If you're any use, you should be playing first team football 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, if it's any indication, they made it to Vitesse Arnhem, which is like the well-trodden path between Chelsea and Arnhem is obviously well known. But I like that, though, the fact that he's got the balls to basically go out over to Holland twice, and he gets promotion in his second time at Sparta Rotterdam. So yeah, the podcast, I'm just going to see if I can find the name for it. It was it's an epic conversation with Fankaty Dabo by Coach Gerald Lammy back from 2021, but it's well worth a listen to. It's just under an hour long. But he's talking about stuff like just his experience coming through, like the 23s, and then he goes on loan to Swindon with like Islam Farouche, a throwback Scotland under 19s fame. Talking about stuff like experienced pros doing stuff like foam rolling and things like that before to like get them ready, and just wanting to have that sort of wee bit extra that you can prepare yourself. Just seems a really intelligent guy, really switched on, as well as being very, very enthusiastic. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm really, really excited about this signing.
I think the versatility is quite important as well. I was just going to really quickly, you're talking about feeling for Freeman. I do as well. But at the same time, Freeman was really good on Saturday and tired quite badly towards the end. And I know that's probably due to a lack of football. But I think part of that is also going to be the style that Neil Collins wants to play. I think he's very much a fullbacks pushing on, getting involved in the game. I'm not sure that Lewis Stevenson can keep that up for 90 minutes every single week for the season as well. So if he's capable of, playing, if he's capable of playing 90 minutes, it might be that he plays, the first hour at right back and then switches to left back and Freeman comes on for right back or whatever. So yeah, that versatility could be important too.
I do think to an extent, as Rovers fans, we've just been conditioned to expect so very little. Like we've got 2 right backs at the entire football club, and we're basically all going, how are we going to deal with this abundance of riches? Like this.
You don't sub your right back. You never sub your right back. You don't have a right back to bring on.
The Facebook comments after he signs, and someone's sitting there going, but we need a centre forward. No, literally a week ago you were saying we needed another right back. Just shut the fuck up. Just shut up.
That's brilliant.
I'm really, really looking forward to seeing him. I say, I think everything, it's one of these that you don't want to jinx it, but it's like all signs point to yes. Like his attitude seems spot on. His CV is more impressive than you would expect for guys that you would normally pick up in the third week of September. I'm totally on board completely. And there was ultimately, not to get into the kind of like amateur psychology of it all, but it's almost detecting a little bit of sort of, I don't know if vulnerability is the right word, but like a little bit in his interview, just looks like he kind of wants and needs like just two arms around him from a football club. Like not just as manager, not just actually, like, he was quite candid with that kind of stuff. And I don't think there's any element of him like underestimating the level or anything like that at all.
No,
he looks desperate to come in and do well and have people sing his name and have people give him a pat in the back. And I'm desperate to do that. So really look forward to seeing how he gets on.
Bulgarian-based Rovers fans might think his hair's pretty cool as well.
Right, tell you what, let's have a quick break and then we'll come back and we will talk about the Falkirk of it all. This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. As long-time Wraith Rovers supporters, we are very familiar with ropey performances. But if you need a service that's more Sam Stanton than Willie Accio, look no further than DIS. Operating across Scotland, they specialise in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repairs and more. So if you've got a problem at a height that even John Fredrickson can't reach, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more. So as we say, we now turn our attention to Saturday and to Falkirk, and we'll talk about the ins and outs of the game itself in a minute or two. But before that, I wanted to just spend a little bit of time on John McGlynn, actually. And I suppose the sort of legacy of John McGlynn, which is quite a complicated subject, but I think it's one that's worthy of a bit of discussion. Because obviously, 2 spells at Rovers, very successful over that time. I don't think there's any doubt that during the time that he was here, he was very popular, very well liked and well thought of, but effectively by the whole fan base. There's not an awful lot of disgruntlement throughout that time, but in the way that it ended and in the role that he played in bringing David Goodwillie to the football club, some of the stuff that he said at that time as well, personally, I don't think reflected very well on himself. I suspect he would probably handle that situation slightly differently. So as I say, it's complicated. I don't think there's a right or a wrong here, and I don't think you're going to get a blanket opinion or a consensus. But Blair, I'll start with you. Just how do you feel about John McGlynn, the football manager, as he comes back to Starks Park on Saturday?
I love John McGlynn. I have to be honest. I do. I love the guy. He, in my lifetime, like I lived through as a young kid, I lived through the Nickel era. And then it all turned to shit after that. Like, it was rotten for a long time. And John McGlynn he's the turning point for me. Like, he's the point where I kind of fell back in love with it all again. Because it also coincided with me finishing uni and no longer working part-time at the weekend. So as I was coming back to football, it was the first season of McGlynn's first reign. He then obviously moved on to Hearts, and do you know what I mean? I was sad to see him go, but it was probably the right time as well. It had kind of run its course at that point, and then he comes back out the blue. For me, I never saw it coming, and it was brilliant. It was just so good, and then it ended so badly. And yeah, it's a really tough one because it is that thing of in your head where you remember all the good times and you remember all the good things, but it's just a bit tarnished, which is a shame. But I still think he turned us around. Almost single-handedly, he turned this club around. I'm not sure where we would be if it wasn't for him. And as bad as it got, a little bit of me thinks that the way the club was able to survive it, and I know it involved, effectively selling the club and all the rest of it, but the way that the club was able to survive it is probably in part because of the influence he'd had on the structure of the club and the kind of the drive of the club. So he'll always be a favourite of mine. And I've said already, I don't know how I'm going to feel on Saturday. I mean, I'm going to boo him because you're going to. And I wrote this. I mean, I wrote the bit for the programme, and I said that I think he would expect us to boo him, and I think he'll quite enjoy getting booed. But I mean, I'm in hospitality on Saturday, and I kind of hope I see him. I kind of hope I get to shake his hand and wish him well and congratulate him on his 43-game run that came to an end at 5 o'clock. I hope all of that happens. But yeah, for me, it's a real juxtaposition. Like he's his heart of hearts is a really good guy, but he's also, I disagree with you slightly. I'm not sure he would deal with it any differently than the way he dealt with it then. Okay. I think he's quite kind of firm in his views.
He's single-minded and has his opinions and knows them. So you're right. There's a bit of kind of cognitive dissonance to it, like trying to hold two ideas at the same time, despite the fact they oppose one another. Because you're right, as on that kind of football basis, it's interesting in the sense that I think if he only had his first spell, it would still be well thought of, but it would be a bit of a like, he was just one of the guys. Did well, but fine. Some managers do well, some managers do badly. It really was his second spell where he came back and he had actually reinvented himself as much as anything. And really, basically, he turned the club around twice, two different times, and very much did that kind of, for good and bad, sort of ended up building the club in his own image, where it was all built on hard work and it all revolved around him, and he did a lot of that stuff himself. And you're right in what you say, where it's almost like he played a significant part in that sort of the episode and the fallout of everything that happened around it. But there was almost that much to fall out in large part because of the work that he'd done. Like the club was where it was and had the profile it did because of work that he'd put in. But
absolutely.
Like I'm kind of the same as you. I honestly don't know how to feel about it because I really feel two different things that oppose one another. Like I almost want to sort of be clapping him with one hand and sort of cupping my mouth to boo him with the other. I don't know how that would look or sound on Saturday.
The one-handed clap is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Robbie, give me your thoughts on this, please, if you've got any, if you can articulate that any better.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where people are never like wholly bad or good. It's John McGlynn, as Blair rightfully says, like dug us out the mire twice. You can't take that away from him just because of the signing of David Goodwillie, but at the same time, digging us out the mire twice doesn't give him a free pass from the fact that he signed a player who effectively, to all intents and purposes, was so toxic that many, including myself, walked away from the club temporarily. Likewise, the same goes for John Sim as well. You can say very much the same argument for him. He's the man that bought Starks Park. So helped us during Reclaim the Rovers, but also at the same time was fundamental based on what we see in terms of the signing of David Goodwillie. So nobody came out of that episode good or winning. It was all very, very much. But yeah, he's done tremendously well at Falkirk. Maybe the way that he left the club as well left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. But at the end of the day, it was probably the right time for both parties to move their separate ways in terms of Rovers and moving on to Ian Murray and what had happened. I think we needed a fresh start. And it would be interesting to look at it without the frame of last season, because I think the last season probably eclipsed any season that John McGlynn had in terms of maybe moments. Just with like 90th minute winners, getting to the playoff finals. So yeah, came back and, as you say, reinvented himself in terms of the style that he, in terms of management, just brought some tremendous players, the likes of, for instance, Regan Henry to the club. Don't doubt that Regan Henry wouldn't have came back if it wasn't for John McGlynn and sort of the relationship that he developed with the fans. So yeah, just really intrigued to see how this game pans out and the reception that he gets. But yeah, I'm going to be booing probably, but it's like you still got that respect there, and it's just very hard one to articulate.
I think he's one of those. I want to applaud him as he comes up the tunnel and along the touchline. I want everybody on their feet, give him a clap, and then when he sits down, I'm going to call him every name under the sun and boo him for 90 minutes. Do you know what I mean? But it is one of those about giving him that welcome back. Do you know what I mean? You mean a lot to us, but knowing that tracksuit.
See, actually, no, I don't think I agree. I think what you said before is more like anyone who meets him, like in a hospitality area or in like, you know, when he like, basically meets him personally. I think that's fine. I don't think people need to be throwing stuff at him or like doing the wanker sign behind his back as he's like, you know, coming in the door or whatever. But in the sort of football area, I think the second he's visible out the tunnel, and it's almost as much as anything because that's like the football pantomime of it all, like as much as anything.
The boos will just have to go from like a level 9 up to level 11 based on the number of ex-Falkirk players in this squad. They'll start off some heavy booing for the squad, and then it'll get increased for John McGlynn coming out the tunnel.
Yeah, and see, again, this is me conflicting or contradicting myself already, because a lot of the time I don't generally agree with that with ex-players. Like, for example, Regan Tumulty, last weekend, and people were booing him, and it's like, you're booing him just because you know what his name is. Like, there's no... It didn't leave us under a cloud. I mean, I know there was that weird thing where I think he was basically misconstrued, where he said he was fed up playing the same teams 4 times a season.
Me too.
Everybody says that. Everybody says that all the time, and then he said it, and everyone was like, up in arms about it.
Yeah.
How dare you say that in England to the media?
Yeah. So, but in this case, I think it's justified. I think there are, and it's very difficult to try and sort of prejudge what 2,000 people are going to do as well, and what that sort of consensus will be. But I think it's
I always think that the measure of whether or not I want to boo a player is a measure of how I think they'll celebrate if they score. So I used to always boo John Baird because I knew fine well he was going to celebrate if he scored, because that's John Baird.
I could never boo John Baird. That's one player
and I did, and I'd do it again. And Brian Graham, I'll boo him because I know fine well he'll celebrate against us when he scores, because he does. So, like, you look at the former players, Dylan Tate, I'm happy to boo him. Ethan Ross, I'm quite honestly, I'm happy to boo him because I think they'll both celebrate. Brad Spencer, I'm not, because there's a little bit of me thinks that if Brad Spencer knocks in a 30-yarder, he'll and on his way, I genuinely think he might. You're going to
be booing him when he's celebrating in front of our fans.
Oh, if he does, I'm going to be furious.
It probably depends how much booing's happened before then, I suppose. But...
Dylan Tate is always so close to being sent off for celebrating anyway.
Yeah, totally.
He's definitely
Totally.
My other issue, actually, more generally, when we're talking about booing former players, is the ones who clearly thrive on it.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, just ignore them. Just don't give them the attention he craves.
But that's the pantomime, isn't it?
Yeah,
Allan, what are you thinking to this subject?
Very much along the same lines as kind of what Blair was saying. I mean, I've in my 30 years now of supporting Rovers, he sits firmly second behind Jimmy Nicholl as the best manager we've had during that time. He's given us some incredible moments. Winning the league at Hampden is something that'll live with me for the rest of my life. Getting to a Scottish Cup semi-final, that night up in Aberdeen was it was going back to Gregory Taddy being shit but great at the same time and nearly putting that over the bar.
Right.
You know, it was just that, as you say, he turned the club around twice and was. One of the other things I kind of think of with McGlynn is he's the first manager really that, you know, started doing the really good interviews with Davey as well on Wraith TV. Now, part of that is going to be down to the the movement of technology, and you know, it wasn't really a thing before him, but like you always felt like he was actually happy to do it. Even just the way, you know, at the end he would say, "Cheers, Davey." You know, like it didn't feel like it was a chore for him. It felt like he actually enjoyed speaking to Davey and sharing stuff with the fans. And yeah, it ended on a sour note. The one thing with that I would say is it was a stupid decision, but I have no doubt that John McGlynn did it because he genuinely thought David Goodwillie would come and score 20 goals for us over the rest of the season and help us. You know, he just didn't consider the rest of it. I genuinely think he just thought of it as a footballing decision, and
yeah,
we'll never know whether he would have been right or not. But it's not soured his legacy for me. I think he did enough good stuff over the years to kind of not write that one off because it was a really dark spell in our club, but kind of let him off with it a little bit. But like you say, I don't know how he'll react on Saturday. I genuinely don't. And until I see that bald head coming out of the tunnel, I genuinely don't know how I'm going to react to him. It's one of those, probably boo him on the way out, but applaud him when he's going off the park, as long as Falkirk don't win.
If we've beaten them, I
So,
did think that as well.
See, to go back to that, I do wonder, John McGlynn wasn't accountable to, the fans during that period in the sense of, he wasn't getting emails from supporters saying, didn't he sign this guy? There was very much a remit from the club that they should have, taken that on board, and they didn't. They ignored it. But, again, that was...
he knew. He's no daft.
I know.
They listened. That we did that K107 Twitter Spaces. They were listening.
Aye. But what I would say...
I'm also not... I don't think it should... I'm sorry, I don't want to relitigate the whole thing again. But I don't think it should have taken anybody else to tell anyone that should have been apparent to everyone 100%. As an individual, really.
What I was going to say though is John McGlynn is the one person, and it goes back to kind of what Allan was sort of touching on before. He's the one person that you always got the feeling that he would do no task was too menial or trivial for him if it was helping someone else involved with the club. So, for example, when I was at college, I was in first year of college. You had to do a sort of research thing, and I did mine on Raith Rovers in terms of the community and what's happened. This was 2006, so there wasn't community foundation, there wasn't any outreach program. So I contacted the club to see if I could speak to maybe commercial business person, someone like that. They put me in an interview with John McGlynn, and he didn't have to do that. So ended up chatting with him, and he was just really friendly, really down to earth. Took the time out of his day just to speak to someone that didn't necessarily need to. And I think you get that recurring theme with him. He always has come across as someone if it's a Hall of Fame night, if it's David McGurn's testimonial, come along and do it because he'll be in the dugout, and then 2 weeks later he's back as a full-time manager, and you're like, holy fuck, that was quick. But yeah, just stuff like that. I think it's very clear that we've still got a place in his heart as a manager as well. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of conflicting feelings going into Saturday. But yeah, I've got a lot of time for him just as a human being, but obviously as well at the same time. Like I said, right from the start, there's no one person that's wholly good or bad in terms of the situation and what happened. I think you've just got to kind of move forward, and we are where we are, and hopefully we beat them on Saturday.
Yeah,
it's obviously, as you said, it's a complicated subject. There is going to be a really wide range of views on that. I think, to be fair, the four of us are all relatively aligned. I think there were some of us are slightly further to one side and slightly to the other, but there will be people who are at the poles of this.
Yeah, of course.
There will be people who find his role in that wholly unforgivable, and I sort of recognise that. I can understand that, and there absolutely will be people who don't think anything that happened then was wrong. And I'll tell you right now, I disagree with those people entirely, but they exist. There would be, we can't pretend that they don't. So I'm sure they will have no hard feelings for John McGlynn at all. Probably still boo him because he's an opposition manager. But it's a wide. There's a wide spectrum of views on that, and as I say, I actually almost, even talking it through, I feel like I occupy 2 or 3 different places on that. Even like as Allan's talking, I'm like, actually that. Well, no, hang on, I'm all over the place. So definitely a very complicated one. Something that we'll see is actually probably easier to deal with, given it's like an actual competitive game of football, because you just boo them by default, and then you don't have to really reckon with the kind of complicated nature of it. It's actually very simple. It's just like, get up, you hope we win 7-0.
If it was me, I would have, personally, if it was me, I would have just had an hour and a half long podcast talking about Fankaty Dabo.
Well, let's move past John McGlynn then. Let's look at the game itself. So Falkirk, obviously, as we've said, undeniably on a very good run. So 43 games unbeaten. Now, granted, the vast majority of those were in League One, but 5 from 5 in the Championship. So they're joint top with Ayr. But Ayr have now played 2 games more and have lost their top scorer to injury for the rest of the season, I think. Anton Dowd's certainly out long term. Falkirk, I mean, I think you get to the point where Falkirk win this at the weekend, and I mean that's not a ridiculous scenario. They've got as good a chance as anybody. 6 from 6, like because I think I said previously, I thought Falkirk would start the season strongly and then tail off. I didn't think you'd be talking about winning 5 from 5. Like, I kind of expected their unbeaten record to go pretty quickly.
When do the clocks change, though?
I'm never sure if that was a McGlynn thing or a Rovers thing.
That's a McGlynn thing. That's definitely a McGlynn thing.
26th of October.
Yeah.
It's still quite long. That's a good quarter of the season.
Just change the calendar.
It's almost as
if
if he's good for a quarter, and then teams figure out how to play against him, and he doesn't have a plan B.
Well, that, and there's also this element of quite notoriously like runs his players into the ground, and Falkirk's a small squad that Falkirk are running.
Absolutely,
it's not like minuscule. It's broadly sort of on par with ours, but it's not a big squad by any means at all. I mean, even looking at the team they took to Celtic Park, like there are names on the bench that I just don't recognise. So I'm assuming they're kind of padding that out with kind of modern apprentices. But certainly is he a good side. Robbie, what do you reckon to the Rovers' chances of ending this run, stopping it from being 44 without defeat?
Well, it depends if we can keep 11 men on the pitch, and it depends if we get any sketchy penalty decisions that are going against us, and the ridiculousness that seems to be falling about our club right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm reasonably optimistic. I feel like they'll be very, very confident going into it, but it feels like you kind of have that reverse Uno card that gets played when like you're coming up against an injury-stricken, out of sorts team that often happens. So, yeah, look, it's got to end at some point. They can't just go on for the rest of the time just winning games and eventually be churning out Champions League trophies down in Grangemouth time and time again. Albeit that would be very surreal to watch. So, yeah, I think that as for Saturday, yeah, I'm optimistic after last Saturday, chucking the fact that we've also got an additional right back in. I'm feeling a lot more enthusiastic than I was maybe 2 weeks ago. But at the same time, that's with not doing Falkirk a disrespect, because I still think they are a very good team. I think that Calvin Miller's just seems to be doing really, really well at the moment. They've got the likes of Aguiman. I don't know if McKeever will play, but he seems to have started the season on fire as well. And again, the ex-players, the likes of Brad Spencer, Dylan Tate, just seem to be up in their game at the moment. So, yeah, very intriguing match.
Yeah, I wasn't. I hadn't realised that Ross McKeever had gone off injured until Allan mentioned it just as we were starting to set up for the recording. That's definitely a boost. Ross McKeever, one of these guys who just like when Falkirk signed him, you're like, oh, he's not going to help. Like, he's not going to help you get out of League One. And then he was just quality, and then again gets promoted, and you're like, well, he's probably found his level. And then, yeah, as you starts the season on fire. So if they're missing him, that would be handy. Allan, where are you on the sense of optimism going into this one?
You know, it's one of those. If I was in Falkirk, if Rovers were in Falkirk's position, this would be the kind of game that I'd be expecting us to fuck up. Well, you're thinking, you know, you're on a massive unbeaten run. You're against a team who are really struggling. Of course, we're going to lose. That's just the way it normally is. That's how these things happen. You know, they come into it in a lot of confidence, even after taking what on paper looks like a bit of a doing last Sunday. They came out of it with a lot of credit, because for 70 minutes they went toe-to-toe with a Celtic team who, yes, were resting maybe 4 starters, but still had a lot of, you know, still put out a strong team, and Falkirk went toe-to-toe with them and you know, looked pretty decent. Hopefully they're a bit tired. I'm just feeling really confident. I think for 80 minutes last week, I thought we were brilliant. Like, you know, if we'd have been sitting there, I'd say 5-0, but of course there was a ridiculous penalty. If we'd have been sitting there 5-1 up, Hamilton could not have had a single complaint about it, because we would have thoroughly deserved it. If we can produce the same again and maybe just not completely shit the bed in the last 10 minutes, I'm confident we can do the job. But I'm eternally optimistic to a fault, really. So it's that's kind of where I'm going with it. But largely because, well, my one of my best mates is a Falkirk fan as well, so he's doing a sponsored walk in Glasgow with my wife on Saturday. So she's under instructions if Falkirk win to push him in the Clyde.
That's fair. Yeah, completely fair. Just on that point about the game from Saturday, Sean Byrne was interviewed in the Fife Free Press, pointed out something that had escaped my attention, that Hamilton didn't touch the ball in our box between taking the penalty in the 2nd minute and the 80th minute in that game.
How raging must that room of every single person in that room must have been absolutely fizzing when you saw that stat. Like, you're not going to like this one, lads. It's just really, really horrific. But
I said it last weekend. Like, if you'd played that game another 9 times, we'd have won all 9 of them. I would go beyond that. I think you could play that game 100 times and we'd have won 95 of them and probably drawn 4. Like, they're just really ridiculous that we didn't win that game. But I do think that Falkirk are going to offer a lot more than Hamilton did, and the fact that we still managed to concede 3 goals gives me a little bit of cause for concern. The other thing where I was looking for kind of positives to this is Falkirk's 5th away game on the bounce. That's got to start to great at some point as well. Hopefully it's a kind of a bit of a hangover from Celtic Park as well. Like, they've obviously had their eye on that for a couple of weeks, and they've gone, and then, as you say, Allan, actually like made a good effort at it. They've not got that to like get out of their system that you get sometimes. You know, when you go and you get tanked 6-0, you're like, we need to get back to league business and show what we're all about. Blair, tell me how you're feeling about this one, and then also take us into kind of lineup selection, all that kind of stuff, please.
So for me, because we do the podcast after Wednesday, I'm already really optimistic. That's pretty much how my week goes. Like, it just builds. So I'm genuinely quite confident. It feels like it's one of these games where I think, like Allan says, like if it was the other way around, I'd be thinking, nah, come on, we're going to make a mess of this. And let's not forget that unbeaten run involved that penalty against Edinburgh City, who were an absolute basket case. Like, it's not like they were blowing teams away every single week. They were blowing teams away sometimes, but you know, I mean, they struggled at times too. So no, I'm pretty confident. I think there's a really weird dynamic because you've potentially got Brad Spencer, Ethan Ross, Dylan
Callum.
Tate. I knew I was going to do that. I don't. By the way, listeners, just to let you behind the curtain, if Duncan had done that, we'd have paused and re-recorded it.
That's because I've got the buttons.
like, and then you've obviously got John McGlynn, Paul Smith. There's a really kind of big former Rovers contingent in there. And so one of two things happens. They either arrive and are well up for it because this is the club that didn't want us or let us go or whatever that narrative happens to be in their own heads, or they get here and they kind of shit the bed a little bit because it's a bit too familiar and it's a bit, I don't know how I feel about it. I really enjoyed my time at the club, and that could actually play in their heads a little bit, or it won't matter. Do you know what I mean? But I am actually quite confident. I think John McGlynn deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that Falkirk team performing the way it is just now, because I've got to be honest, on paper, I don't get it. I don't understand. They don't look that good.
Yeah, it's actually, sorry to jump in, but like this, because it speaks to this point. Sean Mackey, also a former Rovers player.
Yeah.
But you would forget he existed based on, like, there is not, when, at the point when Sean Mackey left the Rovers, if you'd said, he's going to be playing in the Championship again, you're like, I don't believe you.
No.
Like, not, and that sounds harsh, but like, it just didn't look like he was a Championship quality football player.
Or you'd think it'd maybe be an Allan who had somehow got up or something.
Yeah. So maybe if he goes part-time, he'll be part of a decent part-time side. He looks quality. He's scored more goals. Up until Saturday, he'd scored more goals than our entire squad in the league this season. Like,
frightening.
Sorry, I cut across you there.
But
I know what you mean. It's
more than the sum of the
don't look
parts.
far from narrative with this one.
Mm.
Yeah, totally. And it's you look across their squad, and I always kind of measure it by, like, how many of them are you going, by the way, he'd get a game for us. I have to be honest, on paper, it's a pretty short list of players in that squad that I'd genuinely want. I mean, obviously, to bolster a squad, yeah, you would definitely take a few of them. But if it was a direct, if you're taking him, you've got to replace somebody that's currently in our squad. There's not a huge number of players I'd be looking to take off them.
That's the that the Falkirk fans are bookmarking, by the way.
Yeah,
feel free. And actually,
they're also saying exactly the same thing about our squad, I feel, at the moment as well. Like, it's very much
which
like
is absolutely, and rightly so.
Yeah,
in current form, absolutely fair enough.
Of course.
But I mean, to the same point, like, looking at all those former Rovers players, how many of them, when they left and went to Falkirk, were you like, I wish we'd have kept him? Like, Dylan Tate, all right, when he left us, he went to Hibs. He went, like, look at when he joined Falkirk, he just had a terrible loan spell at Hamilton where he couldn't get a game. And if someone had offered him to the Rovers for free, you'd have really thought about it and gone, I don't know. Sean Mackey, not bothered, wouldn't have asked him back. Even Ethan Ross, when he left, you're like, I think he could do a job for us. But the fact he's dropping into League One probably tells a story. Like, Brad Spencer, kind of similar, really. Yeah.
Spencer's the one for me. I was quite sad to see him go. I think even in this current squad, I still think he could do a job for us in midfield. I'm utterly convinced by Brad Spencer, I have to say. Always have been. He's just a really tidy footballer. And I think he's actually the one that I think will make them tick on Saturday. But that's where our midfield potentially is good enough to deal with that and to deal with it properly. And that's the thing of, and for any Falkirk fan that is listening to this, again, I'm going to say it why, but anyway, if you are listening to this, I actually don't genuinely mean it as an insult. I think there is something about John McGlynn and the way he does his business. He always gets better than the sum of his parts. Every time he had a Rovers squad, it was always the same thing. I remember that season we got promoted for the second division, and we came up into the first division and we nearly won it. And we ran Dunfermline really close. We were not good. I've said this before. We were not a good side. We were not littered with talent. There was no kind of, great squad around them or whatever. They were the hardest working team in that league, without a shadow of a doubt. Nobody was going to outrun them. And that was John McGlynn, through and through. And as Duncan said, partly to his detriment, because he does, to an extent, run players into the ground almost. And that's where, that as the season goes on and fitness and things can be an issue. But he's reinvented himself. Like, the way he came back to the club, and you said it yourself, Duncan, I don't ever think enough has ever been. I don't ever can be made of it. Because I can't think of any manager who's had 2 spells at a club that are so different in style. Like, he was a totally different manager. And they'll play good football because
Just to
he's
chuck a-
built them in the model they did us the second time.
Just to chuck a wee petrol bomb in here, just for a laugh. It was very funny when we got promoted ahead of them with that after that, before
That's
COVID
hilarious.
kicked in. And John McGlynn went into
John
that
really
dressing
changed
room.
his tune on that, by the way.
He can certainly revert his tune back, because he went into that dressing room and said to every single one of those players, "This league will get stopped. Make sure you win the next game against Forfar." Hilarious.
Yeah. And to be fair, Robbie, the only thing I'd pick you up on there, sorry, we deservedly won the league.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? The narrative about that has completely changed from their fans, that they were a stick on to win that league. See if big sexy Lee Miller could hit the target from fucking 10 yards out. You might have won the league, but you didn't. You got 5 seasons in League One instead. So, aye.
That whole thing in that, they were only a point behind
Aye,
and they still had to play overs. Aye, they hadn't beaten us that season.
Aye.
Yeah.
And we'd not beaten them, but like we still had. They're making it out that our team was absolutely dross that season. And you look back to the squad, we had Kieran Bowie, who's obviously gone on and done really well for Scotland under 21s and Hibs and Northampton.
And the rest of them are playing for Falkirk.
Yeah, you had Regan Henry. Yeah, bloody Regan Henry in that team. Like, aye.
Dan Armstrong.
John Baird. Who could forget John Baird?
Do you know what? It'll never, ever, ever stop being hilarious.
Oh, aye.
None of it. It'll never stop being funny. The fact that we got sued for winning a league, that we still got, like, all of it. Like,
Our best pals, Dundee United.
Yeah, it's just, I love it. I love the Declan McManus of it all as well. That, January of this year, doing an interview with the Falkirk Telegraph about how they were robbed. The guy's playing, is it not tonight actually? He's away to Fiorentina. No, it's next week.
It's a wet wipe.
He's away to Fiorentina. I'm like, shut up. Like, move on. Yeah, clown. But yeah, sorry. So back to reality. Starting 11. I'll take us into a starting 11. So Kevin goals. That's the obvious one. Murray will come back in for me. So Murray and Hanlon at centre half. Stevenson at left back. I think he'll start Freeman at right back. It wouldn't surprise me. There's a little bit of me wonders if he'll chuck Dabo in, but yeah, there's a bit of me thinking Freeman probably starts the game and Fankaty finishes it. I think 2 in the base of midfield. I could see Brown being back in for this. I think it reeks of Scott Brown coming back in. So Brown and Byrne in the 2. I would put Easton in the 10. Connolly on the right, because I think he did okay. He kind of needs a run of games. Pollock on the left. And then Big Jack up front, running about like a madman.
I'm just going to interject there, Blair. I was so close to having exactly the same lineup as you. I've got Gibson in for Connolly.
Yeah, to be fair, I have to be honest, it's the one where I sat and I was like, Mullen, Connolly, Gibson, like, who gets it? I think Connolly gets the nod.
And you know what the thing about that team, if you put Gibson in that team, it's all players that have been signed for Rafe Rovers, not by John McGlynn. There's no John McGlynn player in there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Aye.
Allan, where were you differing from Blair's there?
Looking at it, I think I had 2 different. I thought it might be a game too soon for Brown, given Tate and Spencer doing so well. I thought, but it'd be a great guy to have on the bench. So I still had Byrne and Matthews in there. The other change actually is I was wondering if he might throw Fordyce in, because he was another one who might be back this week, and just that kind of real kind of experience and presence and leadership in the back. I think personally Stevenson, Hanlon, Fordyce and a right back is probably our strongest defence. I get maybe it's too soon for him, but I don't know. I just kind of I felt like one of the guys coming back from injury might come in. I thought it might be too soon for Brown. So yeah, so Kev, Stevenson, Hanlon, Fordyce, Freeman, Byrne and Matthews, and then the same front 4. So Pollock, Easton, Connolly, Hamilton.
Come back quickly, I just want to add how much I loved in the programme this week that's been released. John Greer's done an interview with Fordyce, and he just casually drops in that he's trained as a barber and does that one day a week to just take his mind off football.
Do you know who else is training as a barber? I got a photo sent to me this week. Some kid that's been on Snapchat, and I don't know how it's ended up in my group chat with my mates, but some kid, I don't know if it's come through like one of the boys' like kids or something, but the kid's like kind of done that sneaky thing where they're taking a photo of somebody without them realising. Josh Mullen is training to be a barber.
Rumbled.
Are they all getting inspired by Lee Miller or something? Because that's what he does. Now. He's a barber. So.
I like it.
Fitted Grant Gillespie's wig.
Yeah, he's a barber and he's got all the extra stuff as well.
And he's got
Maybe
a son
we need
who's
them
going
to
to be able to
sponsor
buy
the
him a big
podcast.
Yeah,
yeah,
not a subject I'm an expert in. In terms of the lineup, effectively, I've got the same lineup that you've just mentioned there, but with the kind of pessimistic angle of I don't think Brown or Fordyce will be back. Hopefully they will be. I would be delighted if they are, but I'm kind of working on that angle that they won't be. So I've got, effectively, same back four, Byrne and Matthews, and then the same kind of front four as well. The only alternative that I think I can see that I think will be interesting to see how keen Neil Collins is to get back to a back three and like how ideologically kind of driven he is. Because I think the sticking with the same back four kind of makes sense, but he's probably got the players to play his back three again. And it would mean that you keep Liam Dick in the squad, which, to be fair, he's not done anything wrong. It's quite harsh. I think we all dropped Liam Dick there as a word to at least say, sorry, Liam.
Totally.
And Graham.
And Graham, yeah.
Yeah, that was really why I said that. So I'm not getting just abuse later on. But you could go to a back three where you keep Liam Dick in, but you bring Ewan Murray back in, and then potentially you've then got Dabo is more of a wing back than Freeman as well as an option on that right hand side. So could go down that route. Yeah, and I think there's
it's who drops out in the midfield. Because that's where I think this game's going to be won and lost, and I think that's my concern. I actually agree with Duncan. I toyed with whether he'll do the back three, but I think this game's going to be won and lost in the middle of the park.
Yeah, and I think the thing is we don't have very many kind of central options, which really with a back three, your fullbacks are giving you all the width. We've just got hundreds of wingers who are then kind of made redundant by that. I mean, even the way that we've all gone there, you've got Dylan Easton playing in the middle. So you really haven't asked him to do a kind of part-time job in there. So, yeah, I think I kind of almost hope he sticks to the back four. I think it worked well last week. I think it suits the players we've got available.
You say it worked well last week. We conceded 3 goals. But broadly, I get your point. It did, performance-wise.
Yeah. I really think that's just a freak occurrence. And I realise that's such a throwaway thing to say, but...
Totally.
Give yourself the option of chucking on another defender and going to a back three later in the game as well, where it just guys come back if you're trying to defend the lead or something like that. But
it will be quite novel. I think we will start the game with at least one, probably 2 defenders on the bench. That would be nice. Not a regular occurrence.
If Fordyce is fit enough to make the bench, there's your third. You could potentially have a pretty full bench actually on.
Yeah, just
really keen to see or hear what Neil Collins says in his sort of pre-match tomorrow, just as to if there's any updates on that front. I know the club a lot of the time they keep their cards close to their chest, which is understandable, but
yeah. And now that they do the interviews after we've recorded anyway, I don't care. Good, don't tell anybody. Just fine.
There's always the potential for a repeat of the Motherwell Cup game for a couple of years ago when the team lines come out and can Calvin's done, and you're like, when the hell did he sign? Because I hadn't spotted the tweet from earlier in the day. I was like, what
I think the way that this football club has become pretty watertight, I want to see that now. I want to turn up on a Saturday and see a name on a team sheet. I want a 2:00 reveal.
Good, not even a 2 but not even a sign-in reveal. Like you say, just a team sheet.
Yeah, just on a team sheet.
Glorious.
That's it. Especially if it's just a name you don't recognize. A really generic name.
Yeah.
Just says Johnson. You're like,
No, it'd be even better if it was like Smith, but why is Smith on there twice? Like, there's two Smiths. He's on the bench and he's starting. How does that work?
his number's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want. It's like, sorry, pal. I know you're new. You're keen to get up to speed. You can't warm up. You can't go.
I've just got visions of someone walking up to the office like, did you put Callum Blythe in charge of the team sheets here? What's happened?
Everyone's going, why is Rory Rover doing a really extensive warm-up out there with the players?
He looks trim. Right, I think that'll probably do us in terms of the game for Saturday. But I feel like we've not had one in a while, so will we have a quick round of Should McStay or Should Dargo?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Good, because Robbie's prepared it for us.
Yep.
So I will hand over to you.
Yep, so 6 questions for this one. So I will start off. After featuring in a youth setup down south, I moved back to Scotland and I have appeared for 6 clubs since. Any opening bids?
Hang on. English youth setup. Back to Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily implies it's a Scottish person. 6 clubs since. Yes, I do have an opening bid. Ian Davidson.
Oh, interesting.
Sunderland, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sunderland, yeah.
He played for Rovers, played for Break. 6 might be a bit many, actually, for Dabo.
Tom Lang. Not entirely convinced about the Scottishness of him, but he was black.
Let's don't do that again.
I know. Was he Rangers and then Blackburn, or was he Blackburn and then Rangers?
Allan's now feeling the stress that comes along with a lives lost.
Welcome.
Aye.
Welcome to hell.
To be fair, at least you've not mentioned like distance from the coast or anything like that yet.
That was a great.
It's brilliant when he does those though.
Yeah, I couldn't have been the only one listening to that though, like going onto Google Maps trying to see just how far Starks Park was from the fourth in a straight line and going, actually, yeah, he's probably...
This is what you lose.
Can't wait
doing it
for
live.
this time next season when this is called Should McStay or Should Dabo. It's going to happen.
That's good. That's
It's
good.
going to happen.
How many days ago did you think of that?
Actually, at the beginning of this recording, like literally while we were on, I was like, Should McStay or Should Dabo? I like that.
I'm already buzzing to hear what chants are for Dabo.
Okay, I'm going to go with it. You didn't necessarily say that they hadn't already been in Scotland before going down south, so I'm going to go with a random blast from the past name of Dean Shields.
Okay. Question 2. I played 58 games for Rafe, scoring 2 goals, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, nice caveat. I like that.
You've got to be specific now that we've started being audited on these questions.
Got to use the Harvard referencing system. Sorry, Robbie. 58 games, 2 goals.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that rules out Tom Lang, because that rules out 4 seasons.
Davo.
I'm fairly certain Sunderland didn't pay $100,000 for a striker who'd scored 2 goals in 58 games, so it's probably not Dean Shields either.
So go and give me the numbers again. 58 games.
58 games for Rafe, scoring 2 goals.
2 goals.
That's like having been down south at an English youth setup, because you get some guys who are not great, shall we say, who've been part of these kind of pro-youth type setups. So it doesn't necessarily point you in any one direction.
It is one of those things as well, like it can be a total red herring, like they've just been there for a couple of years or whatever, or a year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
And like playing for 6 clubs since doesn't necessarily speak to them having been like a success necessarily.
Yeah.
You would think maybe they've come up, played a couple of seasons for the Rovers, looking at those numbers, and then maybe a couple of seasons at other places.
I also know in my head, and this is us all showing our working. We all do this. It's a competition, but we just help each other. Mm-hmm. In my head, Robbie plays to his audience. So, like, if Callum's on, it's always a slightly more recent player so that Callum's
Yeah.
got a chance of getting it.
You need to do that. I mean, it is part of the game, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
there's a bit more scope.
But I feel like with us three, it doesn't have to be this recent. Like
I'm
it's
so
going to
buzzing
be
Callum's not on tonight.
totally. It's going to be
Just-
somebody.
I
Just been on the
reckon.
wind up.
I reckon, knowing Robbie as I do, I think we're looking at John McGlynn Mark 1
Yeah,
as a ballpark era.
yeah,
That would be my immediate thought to that.
yeah. Like 2006, 2007, kind of.
Do we have any guesses for clue 2?
No,
we're
we're
just
still
talking
about
trying to
it.
pretend that we don't.
You're just
No.
speculating about who this actually might be. No guesses. Just
Yeah, like most weeks, it's becoming a team effort already.
I am going to go for someone who I think I have gone for before with no success. I'm going to go for Kevin Moon.
Oh, I can't think of it. It's you know, you get overly focused on one thing. It's the English youth system thing that's doing me. I probably just need to forget about that because I probably don't know that they were down south.
Well, I have not got a clue if Kevin Moon was part of it, but he seems like the kind of technical footballer who could have been. If you told me
Yeah.
Kevin Moon
I just feel
was
like
it,
Kevin Moon was born in McDermott Park, just because he just felt like he was there forever before.
yeah, that's a good point. But if you said that, oh, Kevin Moon, he was at Blackburn Rovers for 18 months when he was 16, but yeah, fine. I mean, I hope that's what happened. Now that I've guessed,
I'm going to go with a similar guess from a similar era to the last one and go Kevin Nicol, another Rovers player who went down
Another-
south and came back and is more likely to have
Probably.
scored only 2 goals.
Blair,
He's also a manager in Norway, isn't he? Still,
Yeah.
All right.
that's where Aidan Murray went to be an assistant with him.
that's right. Yeah. I'll go Stevie Simmons. I'm trying to think of players from that era.
Okay, clue 3. After 2 years at Rovers, I left for Falkirk.
Oh,
So to recap the clues so far, at the halfway point, after featuring in a youth setup down south, I moved back to Scotland and I appeared for 6 clubs since. Played 58 games for Rafe, scoring 2 goals, and after 2 years at Rovers, I left for Falkirk.
that sounds like a great clue. But that's one of these ones that's a great confirmation clue. Like if you've got a name already, that'll
Yeah.
tell you, right, you're bang on.
Mhm.
I cannot think of anyone who's left the Rovers to go to Falkirk off the top of my head at all.
I can think of a couple, but 58 games, 2 years. Louis Longridge? I don't think he played 58 games.
Louis Longridge is a staple of this game.
He
Just
is.
chuck-
But he's,
You don't know if you're stuck, chuck out Louis Longridge.
he definitely went to Falkirk from us. I think. Definitely, I think. This game messes with your brain.
I'm gonna go for Callum Crane.
He never played for Falkirk, did he?
I don't know. I feel like I can picture him in a Falkirk jersey, but actually, I don't know. Probably not.
Allan,
I don't think Louis Longridge was
Doesn't
even
it
with
get
us for
any
2
easier, eh?
seasons.
It doesn't, no. I mean, there's obviously a couple of current Falkirk players that went from us. Tom Lang obviously was mentioned already, but I don't think he played 58 games. I think he was injured for a good part of his 2 years. So,
Yeah, he wouldn't have played that many.
and I think Brad Spencer probably played longer than that, longer than 2 years, didn't he? So, it's absolutely not right, but I'm going to stick with Kevin Nicol because I've got nothing else to go on.
Now, clue number 4. I have won every lower league SPFL title. And I'll add in an extra caveat because I'm nice. None of them were with Rafe.
Right, okay, I like that. So, I am thinking, again, I'm just doing teamwork now because I'm not clever enough to get this on my own. I'm thinking Livingston. That feels Livingston-y to me. If you've won that many lower league titles, you have to have played for Livingston at some point.
That's fair.
Administration's
Crane
great
was
for
at
giving you that
Livingston.
extra chance in it.
I don't think Crane's ever played for Falkirk, though.
Yeah, you could be right. That was the real punt on that one. Actually, I also think we might have had Callum Crane as an answer on this.
I think we have.
And I think
Yeah.
I might have posed the question.
I think it was it might have been the first one.
Because now that I'm thinking, I think you're right, because he's only scored once, and it was away at Steny. I remember looking at the
that's
clip
right.
for the... Right, okay, it's not Callum Crane.
See, Robbie, can I just double check? Did you say he played for 2 seasons with us, then went to Falkirk?
Yes. After 2 years at Rafe, I left for Falkirk.
I actually wondered if it was a sneaky Aidan Connolly. Because he left us and went to Falkirk. No, he went down south first, didn't he?
He went to York City. Scored at Wembley.
Yeah, that's right.
A toe punt from 2 yards out.
Scored a lot more than 2 goals as well.
I think this person must have scored more than 2 goals for us. But I feel like they tick a lot of these boxes.
Is this
James
Mark Stewart by
Cragen.
any chance? All right.
James Cragen.
James Cragen.
Must have scored more than 2.
He's been an answer on this as well, I think.
He's definitely. I mean, he's been a suggestion a lot of times. He's in the Louis Longridge camp of.
I feel like
He ticks a lot of boxes.
I feel like I've used
He does.
Cragen as an answer before.
Yeah.
We should really keep a list, eh?
Right.
Nah.
Allan, Blair, any guesses?
No, I didn't, honestly.
No,
Keep you on Louis Longridge and Kevin Nicol.
Yeah, but it's not, because he went to
Yeah,
Bolton
he's
or
never
whatever it
played
was from
enough
us,
games.
but
Right. Should make it interesting. Clue number 5. I have a namesake playing in League One, so both first and surnames are the same, and we're both defenders. So to recap the clues so far, after featuring at a youth set-up down south, I moved back to Scotland and I appeared for 6 clubs since. I played 58 games for Rafe, scoring 2 goals, and after 2 years at the Rovers, I left for Falkirk. I've won every single lower league SPFL title, none of which were at Rovers, and I have a namesake playing in League One, and we're both defenders.
Right. I think the namesake bit is effectively a red herring. Right. Let's forget about that for a second. Defender is the important bit there.
Right, Columbo, calm down.
Because I'm just trying to think of how many defenders I know in League One and what their names are. Like, it's not going to work. Because it must be.
I don't know how, but something's just flashed up on Alan's screen with a wee thumbs up, and it's just the total opposite of like what he's actually doing.
no, I
Really hope that comes through.
Yeah, I think
Or
it's one of these
something,
things, if
I'm
you
going to
make
look
the-
absolutely insane.
You do the thing on the camera and it picks it up.
Any
Right.
further bids?
Defender who has a generic name, I would guess. Like,
Like, how far back do you go?
I'm really showing my lack of knowledge of League One defenders just now.
who was the boy that played alongside Todd Lumsden? He was no use.
I'm quick
Centre
to
half. We had 2 of them.
You're getting flung out a window by Mark Campbell.
No, Mark Campbell was good. I wouldn't forget Mark Campbell. Is it Chris O'Neill?
Oh, I didn't
Chris
remember that name.
McLeod. Crisis McLeod.
That's the one. Him. I guess him.
I'd love it if Robbie's actually just giving you the answer because he really felt sorry for us. Here
It's
you
like
go.
a double
Don't
bluff.
have it.
Blair,
Just
do I sound like
incredible
that type
acting.
of person?
No, you really don't, to be fair.
Allan,
Oh,
Blair,
man.
any further guesses?
Honestly, no. I am struggling. I don't even know how far back to go. That's the thing. I don't have an era to
It's
pin
got to
this
be
to.
someone who's won all 3 titles, right? Is
God,
like
I forgot about that one.
for people like us, that's a household name. Like that's someone who's been around, been in good teams, done well, has played for Wraith Rovers. Again, I know we sometimes forget that part of it.
So, to give you all a recap, after
Could be
featuring
Rangers.
in a youth setup down south, I moved back to Scotland and I've appeared for 6 clubs since, 58 games for Wraith, scoring 2 goals, caveat, according to Wikipedia. After 2 years at Rovers, I left for Falkirk. I've won every single lower league SPFL title, none of which were with Wraith. I have a namesake playing in League One, and we're both defenders.
This is so bad.
Yeah, I know. It's a defender.
I have to say, this is the thing. I love this game. Robbie's are always really hard because he never gives you the clue you need. Do you know what I mean? For me,
I really am
the only
a
way I can do this
reprehensible
game,
human being.
but the only way I can do this game, I need an era to pin it on. I need a squad in my head that I can run through and I can try and think of, and I have nothing to pin this at all to an era. The fact that you've even said all lower leagues, you haven't said if it's League One or the second division. Like, I've no idea. This could be like the 1980s for all I know at this
He
point.
Would
did
you
say
like-
SPFL, which if we're being technical, it should be
Oh,
within
yeah.
the last 10 years.
Yep.
Or 11 years, whatever it is.
Well deduced.
That's,
Can I interest
Didn't
you
help.
in clue 6?
Oh,
he didn't actually say that he played for us during the year. He could have won the leagues after leaving us years before that. So,
or come to us after winning all the leagues.
So hang on, right? So he's played for 6 clubs, I suppose. So he's not won the league with us. Could quite easily not have won the league with Falkirk as well.
I wonder if is it maybe a Rangers? Has he come? Robbie shook his head. That was an involuntary spasm. I'm taking
No,
that
it was
as a
very
no.
voluntary.
Probably
Alright,
the only
okay.
defender I can think of that's played for us and Rangers would be Bates, but
Yeah.
recently.
Would you like clue 6?
Is Clue 6 going to give it away?
Not necessarily.
All right, okay.
But
Not
I
to these
do
3
hope-
dumplings.
Funnily enough, the 2 high points in my Wraith career involved beating Rangers.
Right. That starts to give us a bit of a...
Okay, so that's...
Right, so it's definitely not John Baird, because John Baird's only won the league with us. That's the only thing he's
Also
won.
not a
and
defender.
not a defender.
So remember, we only need
Not a
defenders.
defender. Shit, I forgot about
He's
that.
scored a few more than
So
2
who
goals
played...
as well.
Right, so thinking about...
So you're right, definitely not him.
It's got to be that Louis Longridge season. It's got to be the because we beat Rangers
Ray
at
McKinnon.
Ibrox. Because you think about doing it if it's twice. So either they were in the Ramsden's Cup final, so your defender, but I don't think it will be. I think it will be. Maybe it will be.
Sorry, Robbie, could you just say that again? Did you say the high points of his Rovers career were beating Rangers?
Yes, his Wraith
Okay.
career involved beating Rangers twice.
Okay.
Did we beat Rangers the game that Longridge scored, the volley?
No, we drew with them.
Drew with them.
So you're probably looking at the
We drew with
Scottish
them.
Cup
Put the
game then,
champion
where
back on ice.
you're looking at the Scottish Cup game with Conroy and
I was going to say, the only
No.
times we've beat them is
I know who it is. It's Paul Watson.
fuck it,
Congratulations, Duncan. It is indeed.
Hollowest
Paul
victory.
He won
Paul.
the
Do you know
leagues.
something? I had in my this is genuinely true. I had him in my head, but I've merged him with Lewis Toshney, and I had Lewis Toshney's name, and I'm like, Toshney never played.
I was also thinking Lewis Toshney. I'd ruled out Lewis Toshney only on the basis that there's not also someone called Lewis Toshney in League One at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, right.
But there is a
So
Paul
I've done it on the
Watson,
fact that he
Montrose.
left us to go to Dundee United with his sick note.
Right, so let's
I actually
course,
just thought
aye.
the Paul Watson who's still playing was actually the same Paul Watson. I just thought he was really old and still
so
playing.
he is still playing. He's still playing at Spartans in
Oh,
League Two. Only played a couple of games
Yeah,
so
it
far
was-
this season.
Right, I didn't
the
know there was
other-
another in League One then.
His namesake plays for Montrose. So that's it. He went down south and he was with Ipswich for a few years, but then came back up to Livingston, where he won
I could never have told you that.
League Two and League One. Again, don't know who his 2 goals were against for Rovers, but he did leave for Falkirk. He won the league twice with Livingston, League Two and League One, and he won the championship with Dundee United. He had a really weird spell there where he went back. Ramsden Cup and the Scottish Cup victories at Easter Road and Ibrox, respectively. So, yeah.
That was
Sorry for
that was not
bringing
as hard as we made it.
complete misery into
I
your
just said
lives
that
for
was-
that.
Always going to be someone who was very, very not obscure.
You're slightly wrong,
you
really.
rule.
The highlight of his Rovers' career was when they had their team Christmas night out in, I can't remember if it was one of the pubs on the high street in Kirkcaldy, and he had to put up with a drunken arsehole, i.e. me, going up and speaking to him like he was my best pal.
Love those things.
That was clue 7.
I love those.
Alan,
things.
you remember that?
I remember bumping into Chris Fahey and O'Connell's after the Airdrie game when he cost us the playoffs. And I was really drunk. My mate still took the mick out of me, and I just kept saying to him, "You screwed the pooch. You screwed the pooch." And I just kept saying it over and over again. And he's like, yeah, great. And I just kept going, and he was like not finding it funny anymore.
Why were you using the language of a 50s gangster?
I have no idea. I was
But,
so honestly, it's one
Bugsy
of the
Malone.
most
That's the most
performances.
embarrassing part about that story.
It really is. But that's the thing. I was so annoyed about that game that in my head, he was the only reason we didn't get promoted that season. It was just him in that game.
It was that
good
whole-
coach. Don't know where it came from.
You remembered that you were a Rovers fan. You didn't want to be too mean to him.
Yeah, I thought I was being pleasant. I wasn't.
Yeah, quite whimsical way of telling him that he was a no-user. Right, I am going to call it there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's about a mammoth episode for a preview, but I've really enjoyed it. So thank you, gents, for taking part as well. We will be back over the weekend to talk through whatever transpires on Saturday. We hope that you will join us then. There's also congratulations in order because Ali Pilmer, who's been on episodes with us, is married, I believe, on Saturday. During the football season, by the way, which is terrible. But
This is
never
bad,
mind.
bad as Les' predictions.
Yeah,
Oh,
Les's
aye,
predictions.
and Les once again with a 4-point week, which
Just don't copy him
Uncalled
into the next email and just don't do a tweet for it. We'll just...
Disgusting.
yeah. Well, that's, I suppose. So he called the draw correct. He's not even just saying the Rovers are going to get beat every week. He's accurately pessimistic, which is worse.
Negative Nelly.
Yeah, so we'll find out how he's. In fact, actually, Blair, could you just tell us what he's predicted, and then at least a couple of us could get to the bookies?
There's a
I was
whole
actually thinking about that. You know that thing of the collective mentality? I should really just go to the bookies and put the average on. Whatever the majority of people think is going to happen, I should
The
stick it
wisdom
on
of
the
crowds.
You're getting 3-1 on a Rovers win, so you'll get some good odds.
So that's the audience, right?
Yeah, I think we should be closer than 3-1, but yes, it will be interesting to see how this turns out.
There's a Falkirk fan listening to this right now, just like, what's happened in the last half hour of this episode? Yeah. Just
well, they got Paul Watson on clue too.
Yeah.
Right, we'll call it there. Point. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you again soon. Goodbye.